to me, what I really enjoy about indoor and arena football is that a lot of these teams serve as a pro sports team for underserved pro sports markets.
Welcome into another great week, another great conversation. The IFL season is here, and there's no one more perfect to have on how the season is going than Trey from Off the Wall Football Podcast. Trey, the season is here. What's the excitement level for you right now?
Very excited. A very strong start with a great game for some folks, maybe not for others this past weekend with Fishers and Quad City, but the first game on Yahoo Sports Network. Very exciting deal in place for the league, and the growth that is ahead of them is very exciting as well. So it's a great time to be a fan of 50-yard football, and I'm happy to come on and talk shop. I love talking ball. So thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm here in the Quad Cities. That was one of the teams you're very high on in your last episode. You picked them as your most exciting team to watch. You picked them to go to the championship game and have the MVP in their quarterback, Taquan Neal. What makes you so high on them this year?
They were just so close last year, and they were one or two plays away from being in that championship game. And the fact that they're able to run it back with a lot of those key pieces, and you bring in an exciting piece in wide receiver Keon Williams, who had 3 touchdowns in his first game in a Steamwheelers uniform. Just the offense, and the offense was already going to be dynamic and efficient, but then you bring in a piece like that, it just kind of pushed them over the edge. The East is going to be an absolute gauntlet. Like, there are going to be, you can make a case for 5 teams at least in the East to make a run, and Quad City being one of them. So I'm just a big fan of what Quad City has done over the years in terms of roster construction. And they have some areas that they obviously need to improve on in order to continue the conversation after week 1. But I think they'll be fine in the long run, and we'll see what they can do in the playoffs.
You were at that first game against Fishers, Trey. What stood out to you about them in person? Because it was a great start. You mentioned Keon Williams had the first 3 touchdowns of the game for them, and then really after that, the offense stalled out.
Yeah, I think before the season started, one of my biggest question marks for Quad City was their O-line and how that would work, because they had some moving pieces. Joe Crawl coming back is obviously huge, but to me, that was an area where I was like, all right, we're going to have to put a pin in this and revisit this in a couple weeks and see how it's going. But on the defensive side, I think the absence of Bubba Arslanian was felt badly in that first game with Fishers. What Fishers was able to do throughout the game, they were able to make adjustments, including the quarterback run. They ran a bunch of quarterback draw plays, where last year Bubba Arslanian is the guy stuffing those holes and stopping that play. But Fishers was able to get 4, 5, 6 yards per carry, and they were just able to kill the clock and just run away with it in the fourth quarter. So at the linebacker spot, they got to get more production out of it. But I think that's just one of the things where O-line, they're going to take some time to gel. Linebacker, it's going to take some time to adjust from an all-league linebacker in Bubba last year to the new guy that's in there now. So I think, like I said, I think Quad City will be fine. To me, if I'm a Quad City fan, I look at it from the lens of, this is our preseason game to knock the rust off. We got to get going now, though. Like, we can't be falling down to 0-2 at this point.
Home opener coming up. That's always a great atmosphere at the Steamwheelers games against Iowa Barnstormers, rivalry matchup. Barnstormers only had 1 win last year. The Steamwheelers take Keon Williams from them. What do you expect in that matchup?
Yeah, I was outmatched in this one, if we're just calling it what it is. Quad City should be able to run away with this one pretty handily, but Iowa got Andre Coles at head coach now, coming over from being the offensive coordinator in Tulsa last year, and then the Frisco head coach for a couple years before that. So he has a strong pedigree as a head coach. But like you said, they were 1-15 last year. They're bringing back some pieces, but you don't want to bring back too many pieces from a 1-15 team. So they're bringing back, I think, the right ones, and it's going to be a big feeling out experience for Iowa. And as they kind of figure out the pieces that they have, a ton of rookies coming into camp for the Barnstormers this year, and it'll take some time for them to gel, but we'll have to see how things work out and take a look back 2 months into the season and evaluate, all right, does Iowa need to make some moves roster wise? Do they need to bring in some veterans, or are they good with continuing to develop some of the young guns they got?
Sounds like a perfect get right game for the Steamwheelers coming up after that loss. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. If you were to draw up a bounce back game, this would be the one for sure, for sure. Yeah. So Quad City should be able to go in there and take care of business in that home opener, which it's always an electric atmosphere there.
You were boots on the ground at Fisher's Freight game, and watching that game on Yahoo seems like one of the more crazier environments in the IFL. What stood out to you about that environment and just how crazy those fans are?
To me, it's just so impressive what they've been able to do. This is only their second year. Like last year was their inaugural season, expansion franchise. And in year two, they had some diehards, some folks that love them some Fisher's Freight football. And I'm like, this is incredible. Like this year two. And they got folks that are just live and breathe this freight football. So I think what Coach Wooten has been able to do there roster wise on the field, as well as culture wise off the field, is massive. And I just can't say enough about the job that the Fisher's Freight team, both on and off the field, like I said, has done to develop that culture. And everyone in the building that I spoke to, fans, players, coaches, arena employees, team employees, they were just the nicest people on earth. So it's really cool to see good people have a good thing going for them in Fisher. So yeah, absolutely electric environment. The pregame pyro and the player intros. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm in the middle of a movie right now. This is crazy.
You also had the chance to talk to some of the Yahoo Sports commentators as well.
Yeah.
After the game. It was a great broadcast. Clear the whole time. It was free. That was something that fans wanted this year, was it being free, but very accessible. You just go to the website. It's right there to watch. And sideline reporting was a great element as well. Talking to the broadcast crew, how did it go with them?
I think they loved it. Like talking to them, they were like, we knew it was going to be exciting, but holy cow, that was awesome. Like that was their biggest takeaway. They were like, man, we knew it was going to be great, but we didn't think it'd be that great. And I think that the environment of Fisher's really played a key part in kind of amplifying that excitement. So I think you couldn't have asked for a better game one of the season for the entire league than that one, in my opinion. And yeah, the Yahoo broadcast, I haven't watched it back yet because obviously I was there. So from what I've heard, tons of great feedback. And the announcers were like, man, next time we got to do this, and next time we'll do this and tinker this. And I'm like, that's awesome that they're proactively like, let's ramp it up. Let's take this to the next level. So yeah, I'm excited to see how that crew in particular continues to go and grow.
Lots of good close-ups. They had a camera guy on the field right in the huddles. Kudos to that guy, knowing how that action can get down there. They also mentioned the rules as we were going on, the deuce rule, the belt rule. Deuce is my favorite rule because I can say drop a deuce on TV and highlights. So what is your favorite rule in the IFL?
I think the two-man motion, like the two-man motion is just so cool because it enables so much creativity with what you can do. And in this past weekend in the Quad City Fishers game, you saw it a ton on both sides of the ball where you could turn those two high man motion guys into lead blockers for your running game. And suddenly you've got a dynamic run block scheme running downfield. Or as we saw with Keon, he goes in motion, he flies by the DB, and he's 20 yards downfield for a touchdown. So there's just so much that you can do, and it really rewards creativity from a play calling perspective. And I think that is what this league needs, and that's what this league thrives on, and kind of what makes it stand apart from some others that are out there.
When you look at the new broadcast partners this year, Yahoo Sports, Nightmare, I think is the other one.
It's Overnight, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Overnight.
Yeah.
To have streaming services like those, big names like Yahoo, come to this league, why do you think the IFL is now getting this attention?
Well, they've done a decent job over the past couple of years of raising the standard or raising the floor, right? Where the sky's the limit in terms of a ceiling for this league. But floor-wise, you look from broadcast to broadcast. Let's just be transparent. Let's call it like it is. If you watched the Duke City game 2 years ago, it was like you were watching through an iPhone 1 in 2008. But if you watch the San Diego game, they've got the 1080p. They've got the crystal clear. Like, it was just vastly different broadcasting experiences. So I think across the board, broadcasting wise, field wise, presentation wise, jersey wise, last year with Adidas, like they've been slowly making the right steps to make sure that no matter what game you're watching, it's an elevated viewing experience in the world of indoor football. and that caught the right attention of the right people. So getting Yahoo on board now and getting them to buy in as a partner, and the media rights deal with Overnight, I just think this is such a big year for the IFL. And yeah, it's if they can continue to do what they did with game one for the rest of these 118 games through the end of the season, there's no telling where they'll be as a league come this time, or 6 months from now when we're looking back on the season.
For the future going forward, what does something like this broadcast deal do, especially with how the new broadcast and it's the reviews of it and how great it's been going?
Yeah, I think it really opens the door for bigger and better things 5-10 years down the line, where this is something where you got to think of it from Yahoo Sports perspective. Yahoo Sports Network, they don't really do a ton of live sports. They do a lot of commentary, they do a lot of analyst stuff, but they don't really do a ton of live sports. And what does the IFL have? They have live sports that they needed a partner. So they work together very, very well. And I could see this being like a trial ground in ways where, like, hey, we were able to do X, Y, and Z with Yahoo Sports. Maybe in a few years down the road, this goes to a bigger platform, right? I'm not going to name names to speculate, but I don't know anything, right? But it's just something where, like, you see a lot of folks talk about, like, oh, let's go to like, why don't they just go on ESPN? Why don't they just go on Fox Sports? Folks, if they could, I'm sure they would.
Mm-hmm.
If it was that easy, I'm sure they jump at it and take the opportunity to, right? But the fact that they have this deal with Yahoo gives them national exposure. The fact that they have Overnight coming in and purchasing media rights, paying the league to air their games, that's a massive deal, because for so long in this sport over the past decade or so, it's been a lot of pay to play, where leagues are paying to be shown on CBS Sports. Leagues are paying to be on these bigger platforms. Now you have a platform paying a league, reversing that flow of money. That's a big deal. And I think people need to understand where the league is at, and understand that this is the beginning of what could be a very, very good long-term future and long-term goals for the league.
The league catching eyes nationally. What originally brought you to the sport, and why you wanted to make it into a podcast and something to talk about every week?
Yeah, I grew up in Orlando, Florida, and I was going to Orlando Predators games from an early age. I want to say I was like 7 years old. Between 6 and 8 years old, I started to go to Orlando Predators games, and it was just a blast. Like, it was just so much fun. I remember going to the Arena Bowl in 2000. I think it was 15. It was Orlando versus Nashville, and I distinctly remember, like, that's one of my core memories as a child going to sporting events, was the field goal to win that game. And just loved the sport. Loved going and meeting guys like Corey Fleming after the game, Joe Hamilton, EJ Bird, like all these great Orlando Predators players. And I'm like, these guys are awesome. Like, they were my heroes. And then I would remember going to school and being like, yeah, I went to the Predators game. I got Kenny McIntyre's autograph. And I remember people at school would be like, what are you talking about? Like, who are these people? And I'm like, guys, it's arena football. Like, what do you mean? So I love the sport. And from an early age, I was like, man, more people need to know about this. Like, I don't know how. Like, I was in middle school at the time when that happened. So I'm like, I don't know how, but more people need to know this. And years and years and years and years went by. And past couple of years, I think it was the end of 2023, I fell back in love with the sport after some time away from it. And I was like, man, this rocks. Like, the IFL rocks, the arena football, indoor football. It's just so great. Let me find a podcast that talks about it, that speaks my language, and would be something that I would enjoy listening to on a weekly cadence. Because I like listening to sports podcasts, but I couldn't find something that scratched that specific itch that I was looking for. There's some out there that do their thing, and more power to them. Respect. I still listen to some of them, but there wasn't one that had the spin that I was looking for. So I was like, you know what? I can talk. I can write pretty well. I love arena football. Let's give it a shot. Let's see what happens. So I just started and didn't really have a plan, and just kind of went for it, and was just being as consistent as possible. And it's grown into something that's really, really cool. I have a really, really cool content partnership with the IFL for this upcoming year. We're going to be doing a lot of stuff with them and going to a ton of games. And it's just been a blast. And the middle school Trey who was wanting to find a way to grow the game. All these years later, he found it. So I'm just excited to be a part of the journey and helping to grow the sport and tell the stories of these players, teams, and everyone involved.
What was that spin that you found that you mentioned that worked for you?
I think where a lot of folks drop the ball in terms of covering the sport is telling the off the field stories of these players and telling the anecdotes that make them so unique and diving a little bit further into their path as a player and what it looked like. A couple episodes back, I had Hayden Hatcher, who's a linebacker for the Arizona Rattlers this upcoming season. I had him on. He didn't start playing football till the end of his high school career. He ended up going to Kansas, played a couple years there, got hurt towards the end of his college career, had a WWE tryout, and was in a State Farm commercial with Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. That's an interesting journey. That's an interesting journey that I was like, okay, we need to talk about this. Like, let's dive in. And I just think a lot of content out there. It's like, what are your goals for the season? Do you want to win MVP? How is the championship? It's like, it's all these generic football questions. So I'm like, let's ask some off the wall questions. Let's ask some stuff that's a little bit out there, that's a little quirky, that's a little loony, and dive in and kind of break down the walls of like, hey, it's just a conversation between someone in the football world and someone who loves the game. So I just try to make it as conversational as possible and reveal some of the fun that's in this sport. Because when you look at it, it's like it's a football game played on a 50-yard field that's walled off by hockey walls. We can't take ourselves too seriously. Like let's just lean into it and have some fun.
Yeah, what I love about the players in the league is, football is their passion and that's what they want to play. But some of them have to work part-time jobs on the side, to come up with, to make ends meet for whatever, family 100%. Members, things like that. So that's the thing that I respect most about the players in the league, getting to know some of them.
Yeah, and I think that's something too that deserves a little bit of more shine as well, where the people that are doing this, they love it. Mm-hmm. They are hungry for it. Like they want it so badly. And it shows on the field when you're looking at some of these games where it's like, man, these guys aren't getting rich by any means. And they're getting after it and they're chasing their dreams of getting to that next level. And it's just something you can't help but respect.
That's exactly what you're saying, what we love about the game. And you were talking about just, you're going to be the official content person for the league this year. What have you learned about just being in this content space and what makes people drive towards your content?
Yeah. So the content partner deal I have with IFL, I'm not the only one. So I just want to clarify that I'm not the content person for them, but I think my approach is finding creative ways to highlight the cool things that are happening on and off the field with the sport. Where, this past weekend in Fishers, I was at the game. I was fortunate enough to get a really cool camera angle of Caleb Sutherland from Fishers nailing a deuce right in front of me. And so I got that camera footage, and the next day I'm driving home and I'm like, man, it would be really cool if we had the broadcast version of the kick and then my version of the kick on the same reel of like what you saw at home, what we saw in the arena. I think that's cool. I think that's interesting. I think that's something that's unique. And it's just little stuff like that where I try to have some cool, interesting perspectives on the game, shine some light on some old teams, some old players that people may not know about. Like, I think people need to know who Lawrence Samuels is, wide receiver linebacker for the Tampa Bay Storm for 15 years. I think people need to know who Kenny McIntyre is. I think people need to know who Barry Wagner is and learn about the history and of the game. And I don't think players and fans nowadays realize this sport's been around for nearly 40 years.
Yeah, you mentioned
a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of history there to be told.
Exactly. And I was telling you before we came on here, like I grew up a Chicago Rush fan. I lived 10 minutes from the arena. They used to have like former Bears players on the team. Like I remember Paul Ettinger, who used to kick for the Bears, started kicking for the Rush. Then you had the Chicago Slaughter out in the suburbs, coached by Steve Mongo McMichael, RIP,
Yeah.
to Steve
Yeah.
McMichael. How much do you like look back at these different leagues under the arena umbrella and the history of it and those types of things, just looking back and seeing how the sport has evolved into what it is now?
Oh, I love watching old games. Like I'll in the off season, it's a Wednesday night. Got all my recording done for the week. Let me throw on the 1997 Arizona Rattlers versus the Houston Thunder Bears, right? Like I love that type of stuff, just to see how the sport has grown and evolved. And it's something where content wise, if I'm being transparent from that lens too, it's something where I'm just shining a light on something that already happened. So it's like I'm not doing a ton of heavy lifting here. I'm just shining a light on something that happened 30 years ago that I thought was awesome that I don't think very many people know about. So in order to kind of understand the sport a little bit better and appreciate it, I feel like you got to go back and look at some of the stuff that came before some of these leagues and teams that are around now, and understanding, hey, this team was around, they didn't work out for X, Y, and Z. All right, this team was around, they've been like the Arizona Rattlers, they've been around for 30 plus years at this point. Why are they so successful? And I think a lot of folks that start teams and try to get into this sport, I think they kind of get going without understanding the history that happened before them. And to me, if you look back on the history of some of these organizations, look back on some of these teams, look back on some of the players, you can learn a lot about what did and didn't work, and save yourself some headache and financial heartbreak along the way, and be able to get off to a better front. So to me, it's like, in order to, like, if you learn your history, if you know your history of the sport, you can avoid some painful mistakes in the future.
With the different levels and different leagues within
Yeah.
the arena umbrella, what have you learned about the locations of the teams and why they're in the leagues that they're at?
Yeah, to me, I don't think it was up until recently where things started to make sense. Before, it was very regional, where even the IFL, you look back 10 plus years ago at this point, they were basically in the Midwest, where they were very focused in that Great Plains Midwest area. Then they kind of grew into the Southwest with the Arizona Rattlers, and then the Tucson Sugar Skulls eventually got them around, the Northern Arizona Wranglers. So they kind of expanded their footprint that way. But to me, what I really enjoy about indoor and arena football is that a lot of these teams serve as a pro sports team for underserved pro sports markets. Like you look at Quad Cities, right? What's the hockey team is the Storm, right?
Correct. Yes.
So the Quad City Storm. So it's like, to have a pro football team in Quad City, that's awesome. To have a pro football team in Tucson, Arizona, that's awesome. To have a pro football team in Prescott, Arizona, that's awesome. Like, otherwise, these cities most likely will never have a pro sports team that they can really call their own. So to me, you look across the entire indoor and arena football landscape, you get that a lot. Like, you look at Albany, the Albany Firebirds, that's Albany's team and they embrace them. You look at Omaha, the Omaha Beef, that's Omaha's team and they embrace them. I just think it's so cool and so unique that these cities that can be good pro sports towns get an opportunity to be a good pro sports town with some of these indoor and arena football teams.
Growing up a fan, seeing how much you were talking about these smaller towns with the teams and rallying around the teams, how much do you see from a fan perspective does that help? Because it could get tough for ownership sometimes to keep these teams going, as we see year in, year out. Some teams go black for a year and then they come back.
Yeah. I think it's something where it's something where, from a fan perspective, sometimes take it for granted. We're like, oh yeah, I'll go to a game next year. It's like, well, you got to support them now in order for there to be a next year, right? So I think it's something from the fans' perspective. Like, we take it for granted at times, but I really like the direction for, specifically, if you look at the IFL with what they've been doing the past few years, where you look at their model for expansion has worked out really, really well. Fishers is based, like, they chose Fishers because they have a successful ECHL franchise there, where they already had 36 dates a year for the Indy Fuel, their ECHL team. So adding Fishers in was only 8 more dates a year in the arena, and then a new playing surface, obviously. So it's like it's like building on an additional room to a house instead of building an entire house from scratch. And you see it in Tulsa with the Tulsa Oilers, Vegas with the Vegas Nighthawks. Like that's the recipe for success moving forward, in my opinion, for all these indoor and arena leagues is trying to find a way to be a spinoff of an organization that already exists and is already being successful rather than trying to start everything from scratch.
Yeah, you mentioned the Storm. They share the same arena as the Steamwheelers, so that fills arena dates, like you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there's just so many ways it can be done, but to me, that's the model for the future that is going to be really sustainable for teams.
How do you see the championship every year? Because I know it was in Vegas, now it's in Tucson. Kind of what went into that location change and just what you see from the championship environment now being in Tucson.
Yeah, so my understanding is they put it out to the cities to be able to bid on it, and Tucson bid on it as a host because they already have a relationship with the IFL, and they paid a good little chunk of change for that to be the official home of the national championship for 3 years, and year 2 is going to be this upcoming season. But I think there's a couple different ways you can approach it. Where I think a lot of folks are like, well, the championship should be in the home arena of the team with the better record, which historically has happened in the past in past leagues, right? But I think you got to look at it from a perspective of logistics, where it's a lot easier to say, hey guys, the championship game on August 18th, I don't have the date off the top of my head, but the championship game on August 18th is in Tucson, Arizona. We can get everything situated now rather than 2 weeks before the championship game. If it's Green Bay and Vegas, you suddenly have 2 weeks to put together everything involved with hosting a national championship game versus logistically, if you have it in one spot, you know where it's going to be. You can set up everything ahead of time and just make things a lot easier, a lot cheaper in terms of like league operations and whatnot. So it's the good with the bad, where you don't have that raucous home atmosphere that you would have if it was at the home arena of the team with the better record. But I think from a fan perspective, we got to kind of look at things like, all right, logistically, this probably makes a little more sense for the league and the teams.
What do you have coming up on your show this week?
So got an interview scheduled for tomorrow with a player that may or may not be on the Fishers Freight. So I'll give a little tease there. They are on the Fishers Freight. So you'll have to tune in to the Off the Wall YouTube page to find out who that is. But yeah, got all sorts of cool stuff lined up. Got a couple trips lined up for over the next couple of months as well. I'll be over in Arizona for a Rattlers game and a Tucson Sugar Skulls game. So I'm going to do 2 in 1 weekend. Going to go out to San Diego for a game next month. So I'm going to be all over the country, going to the different IFL games and mingling with folks and meeting fans and capturing some great content, interviewing players, interviewing coaches, just doing everything I can to grow the game that I love and see where this off the wall ride takes me.
People recognize you or starting to or don't, or how does that work?
It's been crazy. It's been weird. Like it started at the national. I went to a national championship game last year in Tucson. I was there for the Vegas Green Bay game, and I was walking through the arena like an hour before kickoff, and like I was hearing people being like, "That's Trey from Off the Wall," and I'm like, "They're talking about me." I'm like, this is weird. This is crazy. And like people were walking up to me and be like, "Hey, I watch your show." I'm like, "You watch my show?" I'm like, me? I do this in my office at my home, and it's just so cool to see that folks from all across the country, all across the league, enjoy the content and consume it. And yeah, at Fishers, I had a handful of folks flag me down and be like, "Hey, do this." I got a guy give me a bobblehead, like a nice Fishers Freight mascot bobblehead, as like a, "Hey, I like your content. Here's a free bobblehead." So I'm like, thank you. Like you don't have to do that. So it's been really cool to meet a bunch of folks that just get fired up on indoor football and share that love and talk ball for a little bit.
What do you want to keep doing with this going forward?
I just want to see how we can continue to go and grow from here. When I started this a few years back, I saw the potential for what this sport could be. And I was like, you know what? Let me just do everything I can to help. Like I'm not sitting here saying like the IFL is successful because of me. Not at all what I'm saying. But to me, it's just like social media is so important and so dynamic with how this sport can grow. And I'm just looking to do everything I can to help the league, help the sport grow. And continue to get bigger and better from here. And yeah, it's just been a really fun ride so far, and being able to connect with all these different players and coaches, and now starting to get a little bit more involved with the league. It's just been such a fun ride, and it's a grind. Don't get me wrong; it is a consistent grind that I don't think people realize, but it is just so much fun at the same time.
We look forward to continuing to watch all your stuff on Off the Wall Football. Where can people follow you at and watch the show as well?
Yeah, so you can follow me on all the socials. So if you're there, I'm there. It's at Off the Wall FB, F as in foot, B as in ball, Off the Wall FB, X, Instagram, TikTok, on Facebook as well. Started the Facebook page up not too long ago. So yeah, just kind of mingle on all the socials. I do a little bit more trolling on X. I do a little bit more highlights on TikTok and Instagram. So it's not the same experience on each platform. So take that with a grain of salt, and do with that what you must. But yeah, try to have a fun time, chop it up with the folks, and yeah, just I love the sport of indoor and arena football. I love hot takes on indoor and arena football, and there's a lot of people out there with them that they always send them to me and reply back on a bunch of stuff, and I just love getting in the trenches and talking ball.
You're coming to Quad Cities this year at all?
Probably not, but never say never. We'll have to see how the travel and logistics work out. But there's a handful of cities we're for sure going to. Oddly enough, I think I'm going to at least 2 Quad City games, but neither are in Quad City.
Okay, well,
it's just how the travel schedule works.
Hey, if your championship pick worked, maybe you come to the Eastern Conference championship game.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
This Quad City team, I'm excited to see what they can do, and I think they'll be fine. I don't think week 1 was a press the big red button panic type of game where you just got outplayed. That's all it was. And this roster is way too talented, and they'll be fine in the long run with who they got in there. And it's just gonna take a little time to right the ship and get on a roll.
Make sure you like all of Trey's stuff on Off the Wall Football. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel if you enjoyed this conversation here on Cousins Conversations. Trey, I appreciate you hanging out with me here.
Yeah, thank you for the invite, Nick. Happy to come on anytime, talk ball.
All right, man. Have a great week.
You as well.